Hi, this is Nathan Hikes, an agronomy field technician with GROWMARK FS, bringing you GROWMARK FS Agronomy Minute. As we move into the spring of the year and are preparing to plant, there are a lot of things we want to consider in order to make sure we're going to have the best yield we can at the end of the season. There are the top 5 factors that at GROWMARK we like to think about in order to make sure we're going to have a top yield. There are soil conditions at planting, our seed placement, seed quality, putting the right hybrid or variety in the right field, and then our post-planting management. Soil conditions at planting is number 1 for a reason. This can have a bigger impact on our yield than almost anything else. Therefore, it's absolutely critical that we make sure soil conditions are right before we ever pull the planter in the field. The first part of that is going to be our soil temperature. We want to make sure that there's enough heat, enough energy there to get our young plant growing. So you're going to want a soil thermometer or almost any kind of thermometer that has a probe like this, and you want to see what the temperature is in the top 2 inches of the soil, and we want to do this around midday. So what I do is I put the thermometer in roughly at a 45-degree angle so I can push it the whole way in and have it in the top 2 inches of the soil. Now we want to let that go a little bit to equalize the temperature, so I'll look at that then in a minute. The other thing that's really critical for our soil conditions is our soil moisture. So we want to make sure the soil is not too wet before we ever get in it with the planter, because we all know that if we plant when things are too wet, we're going to have sidewall compaction and sidewall smearing. That's going to give us hatchet roots, and it really puts our crop off to a bad start that's never going to be able to recover from through the year. So checking our soil moisture is pretty simple. The first thing is just going to be when we walk into the field. Obviously, if the soil is soft and muddy under our feet, it's too wet. Now, let's say the soil feels firm, but it's just a little wet on top and it's sticking to our boots. Well, we think sticking to our boots, it's also going to stick to our depth gauge wheels, so we're not going to be able to gauge depth properly. So we're going to want to wait until that top dries off a little bit. Now, when we want to check that whole 2-inch profile where our seed's going, if that's dry enough, we're going to use our handy pocket knife, or else we can use a little spade like that. And we're just going to try to get dug into those top 2 inches and get a good feel for what's our soil moisture. So I'll pull this around so you can see kind of what comes off. We want a small chunk of that 2-inch soil, and we want to work it up on our hand a little bit, kind of work it around and try to make a ball. We want to make as good a ball we can, and right off the bat, this is kind of crumbling when I make the ball, and it's kind of a chalky texture on the outside. It's not smooth. I can't really see my fingerprints in it very well, so that indicates to me it's probably fairly dry. And then what happens when I apply a little pressure to this ball, it really just completely crumbles apart. It's not coming off in big pieces. It all just kind of crumbled pretty easily. Now, it's really important to do that in different areas of the field and in different conditions. This was where I had very little crop cover, so that dried off relatively easily. Here's some soil I collected from an area that had a lot more crop cover in the same field, but you can tell right off the bat, you probably know your soil, it's darker in color. And as I work it up, it looks a lot almost shinier when I make it in that ball. I can kind of see my fingerprints in, and it's taking a little more effort to get that ball to come apart. And when it does, it's mostly in these larger chunks, not nearly as much came apart in these small bits. And here, those smaller chunks break apart pretty easily. Here, it still takes a lot of pressure to get that broken apart. So where I didn't have much cover, probably dry enough. Where I had a lot of cover, it's probably a little bit wet yet. So overall, this field is probably still wetter than I would prefer to go into with my planter. Now, getting back to my soil temperature, if I look here, we're right about 49 degrees. Now, ideally, to plant corn, we want to have that soil temperature at least 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Regardless of the temperature, that seed will imbibe the water and swell, but it needs to be at least 50 degrees for us to start getting root and shoot growth. So if it's too cold, it'll imbibe all that water, swell up, but not grow anything, so it's susceptible to rot or disease or anything like that. So that's really going to hurt our stands. So the warmer our soils can be, the better stands we can have. One last thing we want to pay attention to is what's the weather forecast for the next couple days, because if you think a really cold rain tomorrow, even if my soil is 55, it can really plummet that soil temperature. And the first drink of water that seed takes and the temperature of it is really important to that seed's capacity at the end of the year. So even if my soil temperatures are good today and everything's good, I don't want to plant if there's going to be a really cold rain or maybe a snow event in the next 12 to 36 hours, because that could negatively impact my seed's ability to grow, have a good stand, and make a good yield. So before you ever get the planter into the field, you will make sure you've got the soil temperature, the soil moisture, and the forecast that's going to give you an opportunity to have optimal soil conditions and therefore have success in seeding on down through the season and have a good yield at the end of the year. At GROWMARK FS, we're dedicated to helping growers optimize the top 5 factors in order to get them key yields. So if you're looking for assistance with this or helping plan on how you can optimize yields in your operation, make sure to look up your nearest GROWMARK FS salesperson or location today. And if you're looking for more agronomic information or maybe some suggestions on hybrids and varieties that you're seeding, make sure to check out the other videos we have posted on our page. Thank you very much. Have a great day.